Okay, well, welcome everyone. My name is Erin Satterwhite David. I use she, hers pronouns, and I am the Assistant Director for Membership here at ASHE. I am here to welcome on behalf of ASHE, welcome you to the Maximizing Your Conference Experience Through Professional Development and Networking webinar. Really excited to have you all here today. On behalf of ASHE, I just wanted to thank you again. And when registering for today's session, you did agree to abide by the Code of Conduct, which I will be adding into the chat. I will be your support person for the event today. So if you need any assistance, feel free to send me a chat, or you could direct message me through my email, which is aaron@ash.ws. We will be using Zoom AI for captions today, so live captions will be available. To turn these options on, you need to just click the menu button at the bottom of your screen and you should see it there. Um, Otherwise, I will go on ahead and pass it over to Dr. Mary Ann Bodine Al-Sharif, who will get us kicked off for the webinar today. Again, thank you. And if you need anything, I'll be right here.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you. We're going to be talking about how to maximize your conference experience through professional development and networking at ACP, ASHE, and CIES as international scholars. We want to start with the land acknowledgement for Puerto Rico, as we know we're going to be having our conference soon there. So we want to honor and acknowledge the land that make up San Juan, Puerto Rico, the host of the upcoming 2026 ASHE convention. Puerto Rico is the traditional territory of the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary treaty territories of many Coast Salish peoples, including the Samish, the Lumi, the Swinomish, the Tulip, the Skagit, Stillaguamish, Jamestown, Skalman, Lower, I'm sorry, give me one second. Here we go. Lower Elwha, um, Callum, Port Gamble, Clallam, Muckleshoot, Suquamish, Nooksack, Sanish, Sook, Sunghees, Simiahmoo, Mitchell Bay Band, Swala, San Juan tribes, and others who hold rights and responsibilities to these lands and waters. And we continue to learn about their relationships and recognize that the boundaries of today are of colonial making and do not reflect Indigenous peoples' traditional relationship to land, governance, and territories. In addition, we also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that we honor elders, past, present, future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also recognize that government, academic, and cultural institutions were founded upon and continue to enact exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. So we hope that this acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequities and recognize the current and future contributions of Indigenous communities within this space. Thank you for giving us that time to share. We want to talk to you a little bit about what our council is. So the Council on International Higher Education is really here to create a space for community where we can really disseminate information, discuss the research that we're doing, expand our field in comparative and international perspectives. We want to help create some structures within ASHE for scholars who are interested in international higher ed and ask that you join us in that space. We have some activities coming up. We have pre-conference registration with some discounts, some bi-monthly newsletters, networking and social events, webinars like the one we're doing today, and then just the connections with our international researchers globally. And here's a good look at our community so far. This is from our last ASHE meeting, and this was amazing to be in the room with so many people. Case you're not familiar with our executive committee, these are the individuals who are in charge, taking care of some of the processing and things that we do every day to provide these services. So Sejong is our communications, Satomi, our graduate student liaison. I'm your vice chair. Hannah serves as our member at large, Marissa, our member at large, and Milad, a member at large. And then Katie Koo, who is infamous and wonderful in ASHE, is our chair this time. We want to remind you that we do have some events coming up this month. So we have the CIHE panel, Discussions in Community Building for members and their dependents. We'd love to have you join this amazing group from Michigan State, the University of Oklahoma, North Carolina State University, who are here to just talk about what it's like to be an early career scholar, a researcher, professional, or even a graduate student, also with dependents and how you navigate those spaces. So please consider joining this panel discussion. We also want to let you know about some things that are coming in April. We have our CIHE networking roundtables where we'll be discussing how to navigate the tenure track faculty job market, looking at how you develop your research agenda and preparing for your research statements, and then just the whole concept of getting through that publishing process. So we would love to have you join us. For that, there is a $15 charge for ASHE student members, and you can register here. And now on to today, just to talk a little bit with you about our topic is our wonderful panel. We have Dr. Katie Koo from the University of Georgia, Gerardo Blanco from Boston College, and then myself from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. We're just going to kick this off, and we have some questions that are going to kind of guide our conversation today. And then at the end, we'll allow you to ask us some questions as well. So, our first question for our panel here, looking at preparation and strategy. What should graduate students, practitioners, and faculty prioritize before arriving at ACP, ASHE, and CIES? So what are we doing to get ready to go? And I will just open that up to either you or Katie Gerardo to answer that question. Go ahead.
I would start with something that's very maybe nuts and bolts, but I think it can be a bit of a challenge for many of us when we are going to some of our first conferences, which is recognizing that the conference happens often at a different time zone than than we normally work and live in. And I think for that reason, it's important that, especially in this post-COVID world, that we make some space during the conference to, as much as possible, clear our calendars so that first and foremost, we can be fully present in that experience. I'm not always the best in following my own advice, but I think that is an important piece. Secondly, making sure that if you are keeping any commitments at home, and sometimes we cannot completely disconnect from that, that we realize how they will fit within our conference schedule. And then I would just add something that to me has been so important, which is thinking ahead of time about colleagues that I would like to connect with or reconnect with. We all have busy schedules during the conference. So reaching out maybe a couple of weeks ahead of time to say, Marianne, would you have time to maybe have a cup of tea with me during the conference? And what is your schedule looking? What days are you going to be there? And I think that really can be a great opportunity to prepare for that conference. But I really would emphasize really trying to clear your schedule for that, because there's nothing sadder, right, than often traveling to a conference, being in this precious moment, and then having to be in a bunch of Zoom meetings back at home with things that we just couldn't cancel or didn't cancel on time.
Absolutely. Katie, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, thank you so much for sharing such an insightful experience. I think it's really a great idea to contact the people before and then get some meetings in advance, because a lot of scholars, their schedule over the conference is so booked up from 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. So in addition to what Dr. Blanco just shared, I because we are talking about before the conference, right? So I want to be even thinking in advance before and before and before. So what I do, and this is something the academia and timeline works. So I think that firstly, you may want to be wisely choose which conferences that you want to go for the year, because, ASHE is in November, ACPA is March, NASPA is in March, CIS is either March, sometimes February, sometimes April. So, and also there's a ARA, and depends on your disciplines, you may want to go to other um, disciplinary, those different opportunities. So you want to plan ahead with which conferences that you want to attend, because with that plan, there's a proposal deadline, right? So mark on your calendar with the actual convention and the proposal deadline. So I would encourage people to mark on the calendar for proposal deadline for ASHE, which is end of April, ACPA proposal deadline, which is early September, and NASPA deadline is also very similar. CIES deadline is a little flexible. It's a month before the end of the year. So once you have those marked on the calendar, then you plan ahead. So that's what I wanna recommend. And after you mark on those dates regarding the actual conferences and the proposal deadlines, um, you want to also mark on the registration deadline, the early registration. The tricky thing, ACPA, for example, um, no offense to the ACPA teams about the registration fee, it's so expensive and it goes up and up and up if you register later. So ACPA registration opens really, really early compared to other conferences, and their early bird rate, the first tier, the cheapest version of the registration rate, closed by end of July for the conference for next year. So I always have this alarm in my Google Calendar saying July 30th is the last day to register for the cheapest option. And there's always Thanksgiving discount option for ACPA. No, I'm just giving you some tips. So those are something that I really wish to know before going to the conferences, because a lot of us, we have a travel funding from our institutions, right? And then depends on your institution, there's some rule for your travel plan submission. So some institutions, we need to submit the travel plans form like 3 months before the conferences, and then you need to submit the receipt and everything within the 45 days of completion of your travel. So if you have all those deadlines and then plan ahead, register ahead, then your mindset is really ready for your conferences season. And it's early March now, and we have ACPA for the end of this month, and we have NASPA next week, and the CIES is coming. So I think this time of the year we become really busy. So I really want the scholars to mark on the calendar about the presentation day of your presentation, so that your calendar, there's no surprise for your calendar, and that you can plan ahead. Sometimes I miss those, so that's why I really wanted to emphasize planning with your calendar with multiple conferences, because most of us, we attend multiple conferences throughout the year. So I think it's very important. And also sometimes the days are a little tricky because last year ACPA was happening really earlier compared to other years. And usually ASH happens the week before the Thanksgiving break. But last year it was 2 weeks before the Thanksgiving break. So if you have some big picture on your mind, then I think it will be easier for you to plan ahead with more strategy. So that's my first thing, just to start with that before of arrival of those conferences.
Thank you. Well, I was going to say too, Katie, you made me think about documentation. If you're faculty, you've got to document if you're presenting or all these things for your tenure and promotion. And if you're an up and coming graduate student who would love to be faculty down the road, it's a good time to think about what that looks like for faculty for you. So, as soon as I get the acceptance and I see that the agenda is out, I go and I print a copy of it so I have that documentation. So also thinking about documenting. These are great answers, you all. So how can attendees strategically select sessions, networking events, and business meetings that align with their career stage?
I can go first, and I'm interested in to hear more from you all. Um, I want us to think that if you are an early stage of graduate students, or even early stage of early career junior faculty, or even the seasoned scholars, I think the people that you meet, the sessions that you go, any 1 hour, any one person matters in your career. I I hope it's not very scary, but if you are a first year graduate student, your job search starts from now. So, because your future employer will be there at your session, at any network event, so people will remember your name, your institution, and then once your job material is coming in, then they will remember you. Oh, that's the person that I met 2022 ACPA Global Festival or something. So, since we are talking about the strategies about selecting the sessions, um, it really depends on where you are in terms of your career. If, for example, if I'm on a job market, then I will be very careful with the sessions that I go and who will be at the presentation. So I still remember when I was in job market, I intentionally tried to be at the sessions where my potential employer faculty member is presenting, and then after the presentation, I approach and then I say hi, introduce myself, and then distribute my business card. And then also I let them know that I'm on the job market. This is my final year in PhD program. So that was the first thing that I can think of in terms of that career purpose. But after that, I will say I will select the sessions of your interest, and I would say interest in terms of your topic, in terms of the target population of your research, and also the methodological approach. So consider those three major, chunk of the themes for the session, and then try to search by, adding that search engine within the conference guidebook. Yeah, well, ACPA is it's called guidebook. So try to enter those keywords of your interest, whether that's topic, whether that's population or methodological approach. Enter those words, and then let's see whatever topics are going filtered for the sessions that you are interested in. Networking events, you definitely want to go and mark on your calendar for ASHE business meeting. It's always Wednesday of ASHE, 5:30 p.m. I'm looking forward to see you all at our upcoming ASHE convention, CIHE business meeting on Wednesday of November. I really want you to go where you feel professional home. You need a professional home. Academia is such a competitive, a lot of competitions. Um, can be a little scary for all the scholars. But once you have a professional home, once you feel home, once you have your people, um, conferences and those events are something that you can look for without being so scared. So try to select the networking events where you can feel your professional home. It's always plus if you select the events where you know one person at least, so that that one person that you know already will connect you to other new people. Um, I always recommend that you attend as many business meetings as possible if it's your interest, so that you know the culture of that specific meetings and also you know the people. When you go to the business meeting or those selected sessions, if you just go there and then disappear, then there's really no point. So I recommend that you go there. Once you're there, after the session, feel free to ask the questions to the authors and feel free to go out and then speak to the person that you want to connect and then bring your business card. That's my tips.
That's excellent advice, if I may, maybe also to complement some of these ideas, because also, right, like we know that ACPA is primarily a professional association, and many colleagues who do research that informs that practice also participate. But also recognizing that both ASHE and CIES are primarily academic conferences. But I want to recognize that across all these three, many of our colleagues are scholar practitioners, right? Whether you are intending to make a change in your career, as many of us have done, right? Some of us have started as practitioners and moved more into the research side and vice versa. I think it's really important to think about those sessions and those tracks that are going to really give you the most exposure and most opportunities to learn and to network. So, for example, if you are currently a practitioner who wants to break more into the research area, make sure that you look for that track at ACPA that is much more focused on student development, theory development, and all of those pieces, because that is where you're going to find those colleagues who are in more academic roles. Conversely, at ASHE or CIES, realize that there are so many scholar practitioners, many colleagues that work as staff members or administrators at higher education institutions, as well as NGOs, and then recognizing that there is space. And I think here the significant message is that we all belong in these associations, right? So if you are a scholar practitioner, don't feel like you don't belong. On the contrary, we are here to celebrate that your professional experience is a valued addition to the research that is being shared across these different academic spaces. So I just wanted to add that to the excellent advice that Dr. Koo had just shared.
Also, you may think about like SIGs, commissions, councils. There are several of these entity groups that you can get connected with that may really be looking at niche areas that you're interested in, and you may find others who have the exact same interest as you. So here's a great opportunity to connect and think about research or different ways of doing practice, or just to have a conversation with someone who can see you for who you are in the space of higher ed. So also look at those other opportunities to join into smaller groups within those larger entities. So for our graduate students, how can we introduce ourselves to research or our research? I said yourself or your research confidently. My goodness, I can't talk today. Even if you're in an early program. So how do we make those connections, for sure?
I wanna say by starting, everybody was the first year graduate student, right?
That's
I,
right.
I was a graduate student several years ago. And you know, because we all understand what it feels like to be the first attendee or the first year graduate student, um, out of nowhere. So it's just fine, just being you and be there and just be ready to introduce yourself. Maybe if you if you think that you really need more confidence of speaking English, then I recommend that you want to practice at home multiple times. Practice in front of the mirror and then just speak aloud and just be ready to speak out in front of people. That's what I did. Um, and you don't really have to have a grand plans of research agenda or the publication record for the graduate students. It's not expected. It's not expected. You are just starting. So that's fine if you don't really have a very solid research agenda or the things that you want to talk about your research. People will understand. So do not be burdened or just feel pressure to talk about research a lot, but just casually introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, what institutions or what city you're from. And then you can share your interests. And I understand some of graduate students at earlier stage, they don't have the research interest yet. They are navigating. Then you can just share your general interest, and maybe you can share why you are here in this conference, what you are looking forward, something like that. So just being you and just have this genuine interest of knowing people and connecting people. I think that's a good starting point enough.
Katie, you made me think just in knowing people. Sometimes, if your faculty is there with you and they can work as an advocate for you and maybe, you can ask them to introduce. I remember my chair, I really wanted to meet Kristen Ring. And I went and I told my chair, oh, I would love to meet her. And I was so intimidated by it. And my chair just took me over there and said, I want to introduce one of my graduate students. She's been looking at your research, and I had a lovely conversation. And I think most people are so approachable. Also, we are definitely community. So if you're not confident or you need a connection, maybe talk to your chair in your graduate program about introducing you.
Maybe just very briefly, recognize, right, that we are not these disembodied just minds that are floating around at the conference, right? Like, so look for that authentic connection. I just really think there is just so much in just asking, getting to know people beyond that research, right? I think when we meet somebody with a somewhat instrumental purpose, that shows, and it may not feel like neither person in that interaction feels like it was authentic. So also be open to be surprised, to learn something new about the people that you have been reading or that you are interested in connecting with. I often find things that are interesting. Somebody may be wearing something that I think is beautiful, or a color that is that really stands out. I think just making room for humanity and for differences and connections can really go a very long way. And I think part of that is also being authentic in the things that you care about. I often more than saying, I do research on this and that, I often say, oh, I'm interested in questions that have to do with this or that. And I think that celebrates curiosity more than accomplishment. And then, we all can feel very confident in our ability to be curious, even if we don't feel super confident on how many publications or papers we have been given or how many conferences we have attended. So I would say lean into that curiosity and authenticity, and it will be okay.
For sure. So, what are some effective ways for graduate students to build mentoring relationships through conferences?
Coming off from Marianne's advice, I think using your advisor can be a good starting point. I bring my advices to the different people whenever I can at ACPA and ASHE. You will see those gangs of my advices. I will bring them and connect them to other scholars. So that's one way. So ask your advisor to connect you to other potential mentors. Your advisor should know who can be a warm-hearted, caring mentors for your advisees, because they already know their advisees' interest and research agenda. So that can be a good way to start. I think that strategically and intentionally attending to those entity meetings and then meeting people there at the entity meeting. For example, ACPA is coming. There's Commission for Global Dimensions of Student Development. It's a long commission, so I call it Global Commission of ACPA. They have an entity meeting. I mark on my calendar, it's Monday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. in Baltimore time. If you go there, for example, you will see great scholars who are willing to connect with you, willing to mentor the graduate students. That's also the space where I met Marianne, my peer mentor. So again, be there, but not just stay silently and then doing nothing, but try to talk to people and introduce yourself. If you're too shy, then have someone to introduce you to other people and have someone just connect you to other people. I'll be at that entity meeting for Global Commission of the ACPA in Baltimore, and Marianne will be there too. I don't know if Dr. Blanco, you will be there, but at least two of us will be there and utilize our resources. We'll be there for 1 hour, and then we will do our best to connect you to the potential mentors. So that's one way. Um, and because you already know some, the scholars, their research, their publication, their perspective. So if you wanna connect with those people and then have them as your potential mentor, contact them in advance of the conferences, like Dr. Blanco mentioned, and then set up a meeting and ask if they can be your mentor. Sometimes, mentor-mentee relationship, the chemistry is really the key. You may think that this can be a really good mentor, but maybe after a few years, this person turned out to be not a good mentor for you. That's fine. People, that can happen. Then you never know about the chemistry. So it's a good lesson as well. So I think that would be a good way to start as well.
I would only add to maybe try to take advantage of the structures that are built already into the conference. So for example, if you're presenting at ASHE, in most cases, you would have a chair and a discussant at the session, right? And I think because the discussant is going to be offering comments on the work that you are presenting, it's okay, and it's a really good idea to wait a little bit after the conference so that everybody has time to get home and decompress from the conference. But if you want to follow up with the discussants, or maybe somebody asked a very thoughtful question during the session, right? You can follow up and say, I've been thinking about what you said or what you asked at the conference. I wonder if you have some feedback about my presentation, or I'm thinking about the paper and some of the comments that you wrote. Really, that's a really good way to start the relationship. Sometimes, if anybody is afraid of commitment, right away trying to establish a mentoring relationship may feel like a lot for some colleagues that may be busy, that may have their own students in their home institutions. But sometimes these relationships just kind of grow in a natural way out of the structures that already exist at the conference. So don't hesitate to reach out and follow up. And maybe down the road, you will call it, right, like a mentoring relationship. But I think sometimes it's better to start small and let that grow, because that's how you can determine if that fit is really there with that particular individual. Sometimes there is an affinity, but the timing is not the best. There are seasons in life and different stages in one's careers.
I was just thinking, when you're looking for a mentoring relationship, also think about the fact that you need different mentors for different things. And so never get in your mindset that I've got a mentor now, I don't need anyone, because you may need mentors for many different things that you're working on. Someone for research, someone for navigating your institution, someone for navigating career trajectories. So when you're thinking about a mentor relationship, really think about what you're wanting in that mentor relationship and make sure that you're both on the same page as far as how that's going to work in that process. So how should doctoral students leverage conferences for future publication or job market preparation? I think we've talked about this a little bit, but if we could come back and touch on it.
This is a great question. ACPA, ARA, CIES, NASPA, ASHE, all those conferences, if you are presenting as a research paper, then you need to provide the full paper well advanced of the event, which means you need a full paper. So you have a set of this publication ready. It's something that's external force they force you to complete this paper. So no matter the quality, no matter the quality of the paper, you should submit it, right? So because of the conference, you already have this full paper, which is ready for your next level for the publication. So you're automatically be ready for one set of publication once you attend and then present your research paper. And you need the last minute push after you finish your presentation. You need to push through until you submit to the journal. So that's what I always, very behind with that. I still owe a paper for Marianne. I still owe a paper for my doctoral thesis. So remember, once you finish your conferences, you need to submit the full paper. Not need to. I encourage that you submit the full paper to the journal. So don't forget that's also extended version of your conference experiences. Job market preparation, like I mentioned earlier, the scholars in this field will be your potential employer. They will eventually interview for a position that you apply in the future. So consider each convention whenever you meet the people from diverse institutions, they can be my future interviewer. So think that way. So be ready and just have this manner, have this professionalism, present with those people. I want to say that. And one thing that I also want to emphasize, try to utilize the career center, I forgot the name specifically, but there's a career central or something at ACPA for sure. I utilize it for my own the final year of doctoral student, and I had interviews, multiple interviews at the scene of ACPA. It was back in Montreal, Canada, in 2020, 2016, somewhere there, and I had a job interview there, ACPA. So some employer, they have on-site interview at ACPA. When it comes to ASHE, because of the timing, it's November. Some institutions, they have a first round interview at the scene of ASHE because it's November. So they are doing this job searching. So you can even contact the potential employer, potential colleagues of those future institutions at ASHE, and then you can ask to have a meeting. I have some questions about the job. I have some questions about this position. Can we meet? And it's about the question and answer session, but it can be potentially a semi-interview, informal interview, because that person is hiring eventually. So just think that way, utilize those time and space for your opportunity.
I would maybe just add on a bit of a normative stance here, because particularly around conference, the role of the conference and publications, I often have seen extremes, and I think moving more to the middle would be useful. So one extreme, in my view, is colleagues who you agree that your proposal has been accepted and that you will submit a full draft of your paper ahead of the conference, and colleagues don't always do that. And I think that puts sometimes the discussant in a difficult position because they're giving comments on vibes, right? Like your presentation, but without a full picture. And that can really be difficult. But most importantly, you are missing a valuable opportunity to receive feedback from an expert on that particular area. There is a lot of thought and a lot of work that goes into putting the sessions together, what fits together, who is going to be the discussant. People are volunteering their time. So don't waste that opportunity. The other extreme is for colleagues, because we are in this publish or perish environment, unfortunately, that get to the conference and the paper is already under review. It has been submitted already. And I think that can take away also that opportunity for feedback. And I have been in sessions where colleagues are presenting their paper and they tell us, right, this is already under review. And I think that can be a little disappointing, right? Because most discussants have spent time offering some feedback and engaging with the paper with the idea that the feedback is going to be developmental to help you move into publication. So really the ideal is right in the middle. Submit it. If you and sometimes things happen and we cannot meet the deadline, but because the program is published ahead of time, you often know who your discussant will be, and there is nothing wrong with emailing the person, right, and saying, you know, I'm probably not going to make the deadline, but I'm going to try to make it by a certain time. My standard response has been, I'm probably going to read this the weekend before the conference, so don't worry, it's okay as long as you send it by this date. I think there are ways of still not missing that opportunity to receive meaningful feedback so that it's not just based on the 12-minute presentation that you give at the conference.
I think that's such good advice, because I have a student just recently who just did exactly that, reached out and asked for a week extension, and they were so wonderful. No problem, we want the best, and I mean, beautiful email for a student who's doing it for the first time. So I think that's so important. Let's look at practitioners for a minute. So if you're attending one of these amazing conferences, how can you translate conference learning into actionable practice at your home institution? What does that look like?
You know, my program also has EDD, Doctor of Education program, and all of our students are full-time professionals taking the courses part-time. So I saw a lot of good example from my own doctoral students. So they bring their conference presentations to their supervisors directly. They they have a meeting, well, and I think this has been our institution culture. So one person did it, and the other colleagues they followed what they what the previous people did it. So um, you have to have this assumption that you have a good relationship with the vice president of student affairs. I think the VP office, it's just a key because they will accept those proposals. So the practitioners, once they have this the learnings from ACPA or the other conferences, they bring what they presented, they bring this proposal and tailor a little bit according to their institutional culture, and then bring those revised and more developed proposal to their vice president of student affairs, and then just propose a new program based on their experiences. You know, the beauty of bringing those conference presentation is because they get the feedback from the conferences and they get the feedback from the attendees, which they can bring more learning and more comments, useful comments, in addition to their original proposal. So that's what they did, and it's something that I can recommend.
I also would invite you to identify, right, opportunities for professional development within your institution. Depending on the size of your institution, whether that is the Division of Student Affairs or if there are specific departments, there might be opportunities for internal professional development that can be even during those departmental meetings. If you have a really big program, I'm sorry, I have a really big department. And those meetings can be a good opportunity just to, because there is often a rotation of somebody that facilitates or shares something. It's really okay, right? Like to use those opportunities to say, you know, this semester I attended a conference or I attended multiple conferences, and these were some of the things that I learned. I think that expectation that you will bring back some of those learnings is only going to increase as budgets get tighter and tighter, and not everybody in a large department or division has an opportunity to attend a conference every year or every semester. So I think being proactive and talking with your supervisors or the people that control the agenda for different meetings, even if it is just like a 5-minute sharing out with the group, that's a great opportunity for others that maybe didn't have the chance to attend the conference to benefit. At Boston College Student Affairs, for example, they do like an internal conference, and that can be a great opportunity, right, to send a proposal and to say, well, this is what the evidence, what the research in a particular area of practice is indicating, and to really build some of those professional development opportunities that translate some of this research into practice can be a great way to do it.
Absolutely. I also think that once you do partner with someone at your institution to implement, you also are creating an opportunity for you to go back and present again yourself what the results look like for you. So that can come full circle in the process. So when we think about how practitioners build those meaningful collaborations with researchers at conferences, what does that look like? And I want to say that I think this is so important because practitioner research, we have a dearth in the literature, right? We don't have enough practitioner research available. So this is an absolute opportunity. What would you all say to this?
I got this great, opportunity to work with the current practitioners through ACPA Global Commission.
Mm.
Um, but your needs for publication as a researcher also should be met with your practitioner's needs. So, because for practitioners, their publication is not expected for their job description, so it's their additional work, additional time if they want to do the collaboration or the research. So when the both parties' needs are met, then it's where the collaboration can be really maximized. So you may want to figure out the needs of the other collaborators. And um, you have this research skill as a scholar, but you don't have the people for the data collection. And that's when the practitioners' manpower, because they have this 10,000 students that they know under their wings as a practitioner, right? They are the leaders of the institution. So they have this data collection and they have this surveys and they have this interviews with the participant, and then they bring this data. Then with that data, now it's your turn to collaborate and contribute. So that's just my example. And I think that the skill set, the needs, and also the timing, if those are met, then the collaboration with the practitioners and researchers can be really, really big, powerful research powerhouse. That's what I can think of. Sometimes the vice versa experience can be also happening when the practitioners, when they have some events, outreach programs, and they need some webinar or the training programs, then they invite me. So I be there and then train their employees. So I think it's really the meaningful collaborations when that happens.
Yeah, and I would say only to highlight what has been said, really be confident in what you bring to the table, right? So if what you bring to the table is potential participants, that's very valuable. If what you bring to the table is questions that are informed by a problem of practice, that is really valuable as well. I think it's really important, right, that you recognize what your assets are so that then you can really bring them. And I think that can be really useful.
I think it's also important to give voice to the practitioner because many times as researchers, we may assume things and bias our own research walking into it. So having that practitioner's voice at the very beginning of the process is so important. So giving ear to everyone sitting at the table in an equitable way. Let's talk a little bit about faculty and researchers. So how do you use conferences strategically for advancing research agendas and securing collaborations?
I would say here it's really important to in the beginning, right, of the session we talked about how academia can be competitive, and that is true. I also think the other side of that same coin is that it is very collaborative, and I really think it's important, particularly as some of the research funding has been drying up or has been oriented to other areas, and it can put us in a bit of a scarcity situation. I think one of the ways to really think strategically is to say not the areas where we compete, but where we could collaborate. And I really think really knowing if you have a particular niche or area of research, who are the experts, right? Not that you position yourself in competition, but that you can find areas of complementarity so that you can say, well, there might be this project or that idea. Why don't we think about approaching together? Now, that happens to be not only leading to better research, but sometimes it can be very strategic, right? Because then you don't have competitors, but you have collaborators, particularly if you get to know your area really well and those who are important researchers within. So I would say that's one way, just one strategy, just very, very simple, perhaps.
Right.
I guess that whenever you approach the potential collaborators, I guess it's always good for you to bring something good to the other parties. So, right? It's because, collaborations happens when there's a win-win situation, right? It's not just good for you, but it's also good for them. So bring your own skills and what you can offer to the people. So for that, you should know your skills, you should know your agenda, you should know your resources and bring those to the people. And then you approach and suggest collaborations. And I think that because the conference, people are so open-minded and it's so natural that you meet with the people that you never knew and then just introduce and then have some tea time together over a research topic. So it's very natural thing. So you don't have to be shy and just bring what you can offer to the people. That's so don't say, can we collaborate? But say, I can bring this. I'm good at this, and this is what I can offer. So what do you think that we collaborate? Something like that. So I will say that.
Yeah, I was going to say also, this is one of the reasons why you want to go visit other people's research presentations too, to make sure that you have alignment with the work that you're doing and that you have the same work ethic in terms of how you're putting things out so that you can meet each other's demands as well in that space. What's the best way to approach editors, senior scholars, or potential co-authors? I love the cup of coffee or a cup of tea. I think that's great, but are there other ways?
I'll speak as an editor here, and I would say first, it's really difficult. Like, believe it or not, and I'll really want to emphasize this: people want your research. I think as an editor, my role is not to keep you from publishing your research. It's on the contrary. And I think sometimes this is a misunderstanding, certainly a misunderstanding that I held early in my career. I used to see editors as gatekeepers. I used to see reviewers as gatekeepers, and they are not. Editors really want you to succeed. Now, does that mean there are no standards? Absolutely not. There are standards and there are expectations and there are deadlines and all of those things. But above all, editors want you to succeed in publishing your work and publishing your research. Some of that has to do with the fit and the expressed purpose of different publications, different styles, sometimes even methodological predilections, right? Certain journals will privilege certain approaches over others. But I really think that idea that it's a partnership is really key. So nobody's trying to keep you away from succeeding. We want you to succeed. We also, right, like recognize that the model, and that's for another webinar, another conversation, is very challenging, that it really is difficult. We are in a way inundated by bad, sometimes AI slop increasingly, and that's a problem. So really getting to researchers that are conducting high quality work, and it is really difficult because you need to cut through a lot of that noise. But I would only say that as an editor, we want you to succeed, partner with us. Nobody's trying to keep you from those publications. And at the same time, right, the process, the system is overwhelmed by volume. And the only thing that I would add, if you can agree when you're asked to do a review, please do that, right? The whole model is built not on the fact that there are only takers and only people publishing their work. We need givers as well, people that will agree to do the review and to do it as much as possible on time. We know that that's unpaid work, but it is rewarded in the sense that the system works because there are people doing those reviews.
Absolutely. I think we're running short on time. We have two last questions that we'll go to. We may not get to the very last question, but let's see if we can take these on in the next few minutes, and then we will close out. How can international scholars navigate networking spaces where cultural norms around self-promotion differ? I think this is a huge question. Yeah.
This is still a very challenging thing for me to think of. And also, I have a really deep breath before I go to the receptions at conferences. I'm extroverted in a social spaces, but self-promotion is not a very something culturally accepted norms in my culture. So I know it's hard, it's challenging, but networking and self-promotion is such an important piece of the conferences. So I think that just try to be ready and have someone who can help you. If you have just one person who can help you to connect with others, I think that can be a good starting point. So have someone who can support you. And I know it's not always easy to have that supporting one person. So if you don't have that one person, then I can be your one person at ACPA or ASHE for sure, because I'm attending to ASHE and ACPA this year. Marianne can be the one person who can connect you to. So having one person, I will say.
Absolutely.
I would also add, reframing the mindset is going to be really key. I am from Mexico. We are taught humility, right? Like from the very beginning, you don't talk about yourself, you don't attract attention to you. However, I would reframe the question, not the question, right? But the process a little bit away from self-promotion, right? And really thinking that that you have something of value, whether you have curiosity, you have done research on something, and that is not going to be of universal interest, right? I'm not really trying to reach everybody because the work that I do is not necessarily going to add value to everybody. So really trying to first understand what people are interested in, and then sharing when you think there might be something useful. And also make sure that you're not only promoting your own work, you can do that with work of other scholars, other researchers who are looking at that. And that also adds value to you, because then people connect you they think of you not only as a source, but also as a potential connector, right? So, maybe this isn't research that you are doing, but there is something that's going to be of value for somebody else. And I really think it's about relationships, and that may be a little bit less intimidating than thinking about self-promotion, which I know can really be not culturally acceptable for many of us.
We'll jump down to missteps. So there's some networking missteps that you've made.
Really quickly, I'm face blind and I don't recognize human face that well. So I made a lot of mistakes at the conferences because people that I thought this is the person, this is Marianne, and I say, hi, Marianne, but that wasn't Marianne. So I sometimes, people don't have a badge with them, right? So I just assume that this person is what I know, but it's just continued mistakes, and I cannot just stop saying hi to people, right? So it's just my continued concern as someone who is face blind. Um, but I think that people are very generous and nice in conferences. So I just explain, oh, I'm so sorry. It's just my thing. So I do that. But yeah, that's what happened to me.
I think that's a great opportunity to network though when you do that because I'm so sorry I was looking for this person and who are you? Let's introduce each other so we're friends now as well and then it won't be awkward next time we meet. So I love that you shared that, Katie. Thank you.
Great way to come back. I would also add sometimes not reading the room can be a misstep. And what do I mean by that, right? If somebody very clearly or potentially is running late for their next meeting or their next appointment, right? Like the timing of those interactions may not always be optimal for everybody. So I think a misstep is sometimes for me that I just want to, like, if I'm focused on my agenda, which is like meeting so many people, connecting, but if their agenda is getting to the appointment that they have or finding the room where their conference is, where their session is going to be, there might be a misalignment. This isn't a big deal, but I would just really say being aware, right, that everybody may have a different a different goal, immediate goal in front of them next, right? So really being very generous and flexible with that is important. I would also add, not thinking too much about these potential missteps, right? We all make them. It really is not going to be the end of the world. And most of the time we can come back from those situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say for me, I'm an introvert, so I can only spend so much time in a space and then I need to withdraw. And I had to really learn how to negotiate those times that I withdraw so that it wasn't at a strategic time when I should really be meeting or mingling with other people. And so really pacing myself throughout the day and taking moments to be by myself and then to come out and be with other people. So when I disappear for a minute, I just need to regroup, but doing it at a strategic time that doesn't interfere with the opportunity to network and connect. We're going to bypass the last question so that we can, I'm going to wrap up and then we'll come back to questions because I know we're at time and some people may need to go. Do we want to go back and just remind everyone that we do have the conference, we have the other upcoming events. I'm sorry, I need to stop share for just a minute or maybe take you back to the front page. I apologize.
I updated the page, but you may need to refresh it just to show it. But that's fine. But that's fine.
Okay,
Later,
let me
later.
refresh real quick. We can do that.
I just realized that if you don't refresh it,
Refresh, it
show.
doesn't come back. That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get it. Here we go. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Share. I apologize, you all. There we go. Yeah, just a reminder that we do have our discussions community on members with dependents, and we would love to have you come and talk about your experience and what that looks like as an early career scholar or a graduate student, a researcher, a professional practitioner. Also, another reminder that we do have these roundtable conversations that can extend this conversation into those spaces, especially when you're talking about navigating tenure track faculty, job markets, publishing, and then just preparing your research agenda and developing your statement. So please make sure to join with us. I did notice that we do have something in the chat box. So let me just check that real quick and see what that is if we had a question. Nope, I do not have anyone. Does anyone from our audience want to ask a question before we close out? We'll just open the forum. Okay. Well, you all have been wonderful today. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciated our time with you. We hope you appreciated your time with us, and we hope to see you at another event soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Thank you, Erin, for helping.
Thank you,
Thank
both of
you.
you, for coming and doing this. It was wonderful.